novel coronavirus outbreak has a severe impact on the livelihood of households and business activities, resulting to drop in global demand for goods and services, declined consumer confidence, and a slowdown in production, among others. The federal government, through the Central Bank of Nigeria and the Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, have announced some monetary and fiscal measures to help mitigate the impact of the coronavirus pandemic on the economy, Nigerian business and households. Many thanks for joining us again on Television Nigerian and Chiwendu. This is Grant. Today we shall be discussing on the challenges assessing loans in Nigeria. Our guest is here with us in the studio. He is the National President Youth Advocate for Leadership and Development of Nigeria, and also he is the Human Capital Developer and Capacity Builder. He is Mr. Comrade Chris Roberts. You're welcome to TV.
Thank you.
Okay, speaking generally on the definition of loans in Nigeria, so many people are not really aware. Some people don't even know what exactly is loan. So can you just expatiate on what loan is in Nigeria?
Well, loans in Nigeria do not have different definition from what it is everywhere else in the world. When we talk about loan, you're talking about maybe a fund finance or a specific amount of money that is borrowed and is intended or is promised to be paid back, especially with interest.
Okay.
So whenever you are coming up maybe from an institution, from a person, organization, and you're expecting to receive some amount of funds, some amount of money with a specified interest to be paid within a specified space of time, that is a loan, and that is how it is in Nigeria also.
Okay, presently a lot of small businesses now in Nigeria are actually going through a lot of crisis, due to the fact that coronavirus is everywhere, and most of them have challenges, in financing their businesses, and they want to get loan. And most of them are actually scared of getting loans because of the procedure in collecting the loan in Nigeria. So what would you say of this?
Well, we're Nigerians.
Yeah.
And for who we are, the process to getting loan in Nigeria, like you said, most business owners, especially small-scale business owners or some other players in the informal sector, might have challenges with it because maybe the process, like you said, most other institutions, maybe if you talk about loans to small scale, it's mostly on microfinance, that's MFB's scale. They have their procedures. And one of the most difficult hurdle that confront the small-scale business owner or entrepreneur in Nigeria might be the instrument of collateralization. That's what you call the collateral. Yeah. And most financial organizations will always need some level of experience or the intellectual capital of the business owner or the business to ensure also as a means of risk management, strategy on their own side, so that they don't expose themselves so much to bad debts.
Okay, so what exactly do you think the government can actually do to, make it easy for small and medium enterprise, not even only small and medium enterprise, but for everybody in general, to make to access the loan easily in Nigeria?
The government have institutions. We have the people called the DFIs, those the development financing institutions like Bank of Industry, like Nexim Bank and the rest. Government on its own through central bank puts fund in these organizations, and they are supposed to make these loans available for individual, for small-scale entrepreneurs, or things like that. So what government can also do, like they came up with some policies. Recently, there were issues with the money deposit bank. Recently, they are what you call the commercial banks, that they said a certain measure of money annually need to be given to development programs and projects to individuals. And some banks were meeting up with it. They had some penalizations on it. So that's an approach on that scale. Okay. But secondly, also, if the government really want to make this easier for people, there is a need for sensitization. There is a need for awareness, so that the struggling young business owner or young business coming up can also know that government has already started doing things to ensure that they can actually, get these facilities.
All right, thank you. So before we go on a break, what do you think are the implications for not meeting up? like to pay back the loans you actually collected?
Like we all know, in the first place, before these loans are made available to us, like I said, there must be that instrument of collateralization. And that is even one of the things that scare people the most. Because if you fail to meet up with the timing, then the risk exposed to you is the losing whatsoever that instrument is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what other, is that the only thing? There's no other thing again aside that?
I don't know what when you look at what we call the social capital or the reputation, somewhere else in the States and some other civilized economies, if you fail on a loan once or twice, you can no longer get facilities like mortgage or housing and the rest. But in Nigeria, yeah, I don't know, we are not really very active on that scale. So it brings a damage of being a bankrupt person or whatsoever it is. But most of us don't know, I don't know.
All right, thank you. Okay, now let's hear from Nigerians on the challenges of accessing loan in Nigeria. Stay with us.
Some of the challenges accessing loans in my country, Nigeria, include lack of collateral. The financial institutions require that you present a landed property as collateral. It makes it difficult for so many to be able to have access to these loans. And also, the interest rates are quite high, in double digits. And it makes it almost impossible for even the SMEs to be able to handle the repayments. And there's seemingly lack of awareness on the part of the borrowers. Some don't even know they can have access to these loans or they're qualified for these loans. So they don't go for it.
Difficulty in accessing loan in my country, Nigeria. It's really not been easy, and I discovered a lot of the terms and conditions behind accepting these loans are not favorable, especially for individuals who want to get the loan. Some of these banks, what you get to pay on monthly basis before you can clear the loan, you discover that people who take this loan, it's like they are paying through their nose. And there is always a repercussion for not being able to meet up. And look at the situations of things in Nigeria. It's really not palatable. So I would really appreciate if there's a way the banks could consider the interest of the common man. Consider the interest of the common man. It's really not easy, especially in a pandemic time like this, where a lot of people will be needing loan to start up their business, to support their business, because a lot of people will be falling out of business, a lot of people will be losing their job.
I'm based in Enugu State. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the problems people encounter while accessing loans in Nigeria. I have like 4 points here. I'll start by saying that lack of valid identity, lack of credit rating, and high interest rates. High default rate also is a factor.
We that are people of small scale businesses, we find it very difficult to collect funds because of the collateral the banks are giving to us. They can tell you to bring something that you don't even have a property to give them to. They can tell you to bring a car. I am just a starter. I do not have a car. So how do I get that loan? These are part of the problems we have. Another thing is about the interest. You want to collect a loan of 200,000 and you are being asked to pay an interest of 50,000 for a small scale business, someone who is just starting. How can we cope with that? A whole lot of challenges we are facing in Nigeria in terms of collecting loan.
We face so many challenges. The bank always asks us to provide our national ID card. Only after providing the national ID card, the bank still asks us to provide guarantor. After bringing the guarantor, the bank still asks us to provide a sum of 10,000 naira. After paying that sum of 10,000 naira, the amount we request for the loan will not be given to us immediately. We need to wait for some days or some weeks. After waiting for some days or some weeks, coming to pick the loan, there is some fixed amount that we need to be paying weekly.
Basically, I think one of the major problems we encounter in accessing loans and credit facilities in Nigeria is one of them is that when you look at the business sector in Nigeria, apparently 60% of businessmen in Nigeria are actually not all that educated. So the financial institution have not gone to the extent of actually creating an awareness of to letting people know that, oh, there's actually credit facility, there are loans in case you want to expand your business, in case you want to maximize. And to an extent, this financial institution actually requests for some things that actually are not easy to access. So those are the things actually stopping, those are the things discouraging people from actually accessing loans and credit facilities.
Thanks for staying with us, and in case you're just joining us, it's still TV and Business, and we've been discussing on the challenges of accessing loans in Nigeria. But before we proceed with our discussion, let's look at the business update for today. Stay with us. The dollar exchanged for 445 naira in the parallel market on Monday due to scarcity and shrinking liquidity in the forex market. The extension of the ban placed on flights in the country by the federal government is part of effort to curtail the spread of coronavirus further affected the access to forex by bird exchange operators. The President's Association of Bird Exchange Operators of Nigeria, Alhaji Aminu Gwabade, said the extension of the airport lockdown as well as sale of forex to the BDCs pending where air travels resume has impacted the naira negatively from 425 naira per dollar to 445 naira per dollar in the parallel market. The Federation Account Allocation Committee disbursed 1.95 trillion naira to the three tiers of government and other statutory agencies in the first quarter of 2020, the Nigerian Extractive Industry Transparency Initiative has said. 90 in a report released on Monday said 791.4 billion naira went to the federal government, 669 billion naira was shared by the state, and about 395 billion naira was shared by the 774 local government areas. The balance went to the Northeast Development Commission, the Excess Crude Account, the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the Nigerian Customs Service, and the Department of Petroleum Resources. Meanwhile, the review examined FARC disbursement in the first quarter of this year and made projections on the possible impact of COVID-19 and government revenues. Foreign reserves have risen to $34.65 billion within 11 days. Latest figures from the Central Bank of Nigeria have indicated. The report specifically shows that the foreign exchange rose by $1.22 billion from $33.42 billion as of April 29, 2020 to $34.65 billion on May 11. The reserves have slipped into a decline after hitting a high of $45.17 billion on June 11, 2019, losing $11 billion to $33.89 billion as of April 28, 2020. The Central Bank of Nigeria Governor Godwin Emefiele, during the last Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the banking sector, reiterated the need for government to urgently reduce reliance on oil revenue by gradually diversifying the economy and improving tax collection. On the domestic front, he said available data on key macroeconomic variables indicated the likelihood of subdued output growth for the Nigerian economy in 2020. By reducing the ex-depot price of petrol without announcing a new price band for the commodity at filling stations, the federal government, through its agency, is trying to set marketers against the buying public, oil dealers have said. Last week, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation announced a reduction in the ex-depot price of petrol from 113 naira 28 kobo per litre to 108 naira per litre without saying anything about the pump price at filling stations. The NNPC is not the agency responsible for petroleum product pricing, although it has remained the major importer of petrol into Nigeria. The Petroleum Products Pricing Regulatory Agency is the organization responsible for product pricing, but it has remained slight on the cost of petrol even after the NNPC reduced the commodity ex-depot price. And that's the business update on Television Nigerian. I am cheering the CCA. Let's take a quick break. We'll be back shortly. name is Chiwendu Osisiago, presenter at Television Nigerian Business Daily. In a globalizing world, ours is to keep you engaged, informed, and educated on contemporary happenings in the business world. We therefore command a special audience of business-minded viewers who are eager to know more about business. I mean, your business. Why don't you take advantage of our special affordable offer to let the world know about your concepts, your goods, and of course, your services? You can call us on 080-3071-6959 or 070-3234-9054. You can also visit us at Television Nigerian in Guzapi, Abuja, and follow us on all our social media handles on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, on Twitter at Television Nigerian. Your business is our concern. Thanks for staying with us, and in case you're just joining us, it's still TV and Business Daily, and we've been discussing on the challenges of accessing loans in Nigeria. My guest is here in the studio. He has been talking and he has been espousing more on it, and he is the National President, Youth Advocate for Leadership and Development of Nigeria, and also the Human Capital Developer and Capacity Builder, Comrade Chris Roberts. Okay, you've listened to what Nigerians said.
Okay.
Like, what do you have to say?
Basically, what we heard from them is a first-hand experience. These are things that we meet on day-to-day issues. You had the lady talked about what most banks demand as collaterals. You see a young business starter, and a beginner in business, and you are demanding for maybe a landed asset, or you're looking for a car. The bank on their side look at that, because those are things that are easily liquidated to be able to recuperate back their cash if in the case of default. Okay. But it will be difficult on the side of a business, a young business, or a young entrepreneur, or a business starter. So these are the areas that government need to leverage on. Government need to put on some policies that can actually subsidize or reduce the stress of going through this. There's some other one our brother came up on. He said that majority of the business persons in Nigeria here are illiterate or semi-illiterate. Yeah. So if something involves a very formal procedure, a very formal protocol, from one state to the other, most of them might not have that time or might not have the capacity to go through it. And that was the reason why I said that there was a need for serious sensitization and awareness. So you need to reduce what the practices are so that it can actually accommodate them. Because if you look at our banking, the MFB, practically, the practices are very, very close to what the commercial banks does, their procedure, the ways they go about it and all that. So if time is not taken, it becomes extremely difficult for a person who is not that learned. But also, I will also commend some of their efforts so far, because you see some of the day-to-day collectors of this cash, they go into the market, young ladies, young men, they have a one-on-one touch with these business people in marketplaces and all that. So they can be used as instruments of awareness to tell them that these things are not actually as difficult as it is. It's just that sometimes it might be easier to walk into the market to get deposits from these people, but immediately they talk about loan, the question becomes different, because that's something else. So that's that. So you see somebody talking about what they demand for identity, ask for your
national ID card,
and all this,
a guarantor,
a guarantor and all that. And sometimes also, I don't know if everybody, but at the same time, what that should be for is talking about your credibility, because it's a dicey thing, it's a two-way thing. It's being fair, being easy on the side of the person seeking for the loan, the applicant, and also the security, because we're talking about money here. And the institution, the microfinance bank, we also want to be sure that they are on the safe side of the risk scale so that you don't expose yourself and it becomes difficult. If not, at the long run, they wouldn't be functional because there will be so much issues of bad debts.
Okay, thank you. Let's divert a bit. You know, the COVID-19 has actually impacted the country generally. Like, what's your view on that?
I've kept on telling people recently that it would be very wrong for anyone, to expect that whenever this particular pandemic comes to an end, that things will continue the way it used to be. The effect it has had both on the global economy, our national economy in Nigeria, both macro and micro, is so terrible. It's so terrible. So it has its effect on all forms of businesses, especially medium and small scale businesses. Because a young entrepreneur or a young business that maybe has between 5 to 10, 20 workers that have been shut, the office have been shut, activities have been shut maybe since the end of March till now, 2 months, and to be able to retain your staff strength, to be able to retain your workers, you must pay. And some of these businesses are, the revenue, they get their money from their daily activities to actually be able to pay at the end of a month. So that's going to be very, very terrible on such businesses. That's going to be very, very terrible on such businesses. So the effect is massive. The effect is massive. And that's the reason why some leaders in the business place now, this is a time for us to come out and start looking at what should be the measures. What should be the measures to cushion the effect, not just on the employee who is at home, but also for the businesses when this thing comes up again. So
how do you see Nigeria probably in the next 2 years? Do you think we'll go back to the way we used to be, or probably might just be the same?
I think there's a good part of it, because it's not entirely bad. When circumstances knock on people, certain aspect of their strength comes up. If Nigeria continue maybe on how we used to do things, of unaccountability, of insensitivity, it doesn't matter, then we are in for a very big challenge. But if people stand up and understand that times have changed, the economy has changed, activities have changed, what people do to earn money now has changed, then they are able to adjust. Well, Nigerians are very smart when it comes to adaptability. So I believe that in the next 2 years, if we take the proper steps required, so some strength will be out of the experience.
Okay, moving forward, what do you think is the best steps to take in getting loan in Nigeria, and especially to those that are not even aware about it?
The best step in getting a loan in Nigeria now, there are steps. Basically, it's a formal thing. First of all, you must have an account with any bank of interest where you intend to, your account have to be active. Some banks might need you to service it for a certain period of time. You don't just open an account today and you want.
What about people that don't have money to open an account?
Some of these accounts are not, some accounts can be easily this thing, you understand? Mm-hmm. Then they need you to service the loan for some time. Then another thing is the reason for the loan.
Okay.
We might have various projects. One is, demanding a loan for, maybe it's an agricultural loan, maybe it's a business loan. But one type of loan I'm not sure Nigerian institutions are interested in funding easily is consumption loan. Okay. You understand? Because, the way people are at home now, they are nothing to eat. You work the bank, you want them to give you a loan to feed your family. I don't know. Because they will be afraid as to how the money comes back.
Yeah. You must have something doing.
You must have something doing that they can come, analyze, watch, which is not fixed. 6 months into the job, you take 300,000, 400,000 and give to him. Then he goes to the village and pay a bride price of a woman who has been in love with for some time. And later you heard they say he's no longer living in this place again. All you do, he has relocated to maybe some other state or something like that, or he's no longer working with us again. You say, how long did he work? Say, he just worked for 5 months, or he worked for 7 months. How will you feel as the banker who has brought this client for your institution? Or you think the manager will clap for you?
Yeah.
So it's always a two-way thing. is always on the side of the day, on the side of the young man. So what you can actually do now is standing on whatever is in your hand that you're doing. You must present, you must get it documented also. Documentation is another process that is required to get a loan. You don't get a loan on oral demand. Okay, I need a loan. You walk into a bank and they say, okay, you have to pass through the process of documentation. And that is where what our brother was saying when they begin to ask for a guarantor. A guarantor is in case,
in case
we don't see you.
Really?
And a guarantor should be somebody, maybe a person that is respected enough, adult enough also, to be able to, back you up.
Okay, there was one experience just close to my house. Like somebody got a loan from the bank.
Okay.
Then he left because he could not, pay the loan.
Okay.
Then the guarantor was like his best friend, and they brought the police to arrest his best friend because I think he signed his name as a guarantor. So they arrested him. So what do you think they would have done? Would they have released him, or would the person, the best friend, pay for it?
When you guarantee someone, what you are by implication saying is that I know this person enough to make him available whenever he's there. It's like sign a surety in a legal issue. Somebody have been arrested and there's a prosecution awaiting the person. You come and sign bail for the person. What you're saying is that whenever you need this person,
just come.
If you can't find him, look for me. That's the meaning.
Okay.
So when you sign a guarantor like that, it means that you're ensuring that you make him available. So as the case, the onus of the duty of making him available lies on you. Then at the event that you cannot be able to make him available, then it means that you have to bear the responsibilities which he would have borne if he was around.
All right, thank you so much. So finally, what's your final take, sir?
Oh, my final take today, especially considering this COVID-19, I want to tell every Nigerian, try to develop at least one digital skill, one skill that supports whatever you are doing. Life will not continue being as it used to be. Since we came into this, from the end, even right now, times have changed. So whatsoever you do, try to look for at least one skill, practical skill, added to what you do. That's what I have to say.
So it's very important.
Very, very important.
We got less of the skill, right?
Maybe when we have further time here, we can be able to bring out the type of skills. When I say skills, there are skills that are today and tomorrow. There are skills that were yesterday. You might also have the yesterday skill today, but you need to improve it to become digital. So that if anything happens and you find yourself in a situation whereby you are not, when I say this, your job shouldn't conscript you to one place. Let it be a type of job. There are people that are still working. There are people that in the midst of all this, it doesn't affect their job, they're still working. Some Nigerians today are living here, living in the city of Port Harcourt, living in Lagos, living in Abuja here, in Kaduna, and they are working even as far as in Canada. They are working with Swiss companies. They do their jobs online. You see it. So there are skills like that that doesn't really need you every day to be on the road. If you go out, you will do what you want to do. Wherever you are, you work from that place. So people should acquaint themselves. So.
Yeah, I think it's actually very important, no matter how little the money, because so many people overlook because of the amount of money they receive. Even if it's just 10, 100 naira per day, it's still something. It's still another sort of income. All right, thank you so much, Comrade Chris Roberts, for coming on TV and Business. So good to have you today. All right, that's what you have for you today on TV and Business. I am Chiranju Usisiago. And don't forget that you can follow us on all our social media platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube, and of course on Twitter at Television Nigeria. And don't forget too that you can advertise with us. All right, do have a wonderful day. Bye for now.